Deep inside the limestone caves of Qumran, a forgotten parchment was unsealed. Corbin here. I've stared at Enoch's calendar so long, I can calculate equinoxes in my sleep. Only, Rome erased every trace of it. It reveals a forgotten 364-day solar year, a discovery that completely shatters centuries of established church tradition. Consider subscribing to the channel right now as we decode this suppressed ancient geometry. In 1947, a Bedouin shepherd hurled a stone into a dark cliffside cave. The sound of breaking pottery echoed across the barren hills of Qumran. Inside Cave 4, archaeologists uncovered thousands of brittle parchment fragments. Scholars expected standard biblical texts, but found something far more disruptive. Preserved in the dry desert air were multiple copies of the Book of Enoch. For 2,000 years, Western institutions claimed Enoch was merely legendary folklore. Yet here were fragments older than the canonical New Testament manuscripts. The Essene community had carefully hidden these scrolls away from invading Roman legions. They treated Enoch's writings not as secondary speculation, but as supreme holy scripture. When paleographers assembled the pieces of Fragment 4, Q201, they froze. The text contained meticulous astronomical tables that contradicted the official Jewish calendar. It did not follow the moon. It was locked to the movement of the sun. Mainstream historians had insisted for decades that the solar calendar was a late medieval invention. Qumran proved that false in a single afternoon. The scrolls showed an unbroken tradition of solar timekeeping, predating the temple elite. A complete mathematical grid preserved beneath the sands of the Dead Sea. This was not just an alternative theology, it was a competing system of reality. And the math embedded within it was strikingly flawless. Let us examine the exact architecture of Enoch's 364-day year. The year is divided into 4 equal seasons of 91 days each. 91 divides perfectly by 7, yielding exactly 13 complete weeks per season. Multiply 13 weeks by 4, and you get exactly 52 weeks every single year. No fractions, no leftover days, no shifting schedules. Every single year begins on a Wednesday, the day the sun was created in Genesis. This means every holy festival lands on the exact same day of the week forever. Passover is always on a Wednesday. Yom Kippur is always on a Friday. Compare that to our modern calendar, where your birthday shifts day to day. In Enoch's system, chaos is completely removed from the passage of time. Each 91-day season consists of 2 months of 30 days and 1 of 31. That extra 31st day serves as the seasonal signpost, marking solstices and equinoxes. The astronomical precision prevented priests from manipulating dates for political control. It was an invariant mathematical grid dictated by the heavens, not by kings. If you are finding this breakdown insightful, hit the subscribe button to support deeper manuscript investigations. The Qumran community viewed this matrix as a reflection of divine order itself. To alter even one day was to break covenant with the creator of the stars. Yet, Jerusalem was using a completely different calendar during the Second Temple period. They relied on lunar sightings, creating constant disputes over when holy days began. Qumran scribes called the Jerusalem priesthood worshippers of a corrupted time. They withdrew to the wilderness to keep the solar cycle pure. Because according to Enoch, this calendar was handed down by the archangel Uriel himself. Chapters 72 through 82 of 1st Enoch form the Book of the Heavenly Luminaries. Here, the patriarch Enoch is guided through the cosmos by the angel Uriel. Uriel shows Enoch 6 eastern portals where the sun rises throughout the year, and 6 western portals where the sun sets in exact mathematical sequence. The text details the precise length of day and night as the sun moves between portals. Month by month, the ratio of daylight to darkness shifts in exact fractional steps. Uriel explicitly warns Enoch that future generations will drift into error. They will mistake the moon's erratic shifts for divine time, ruining the sacred years. This warning reads less like poetry and more like a detailed technical manual. It provides specific measurements for solar elevation and seasonal transition points. Ancient Greek astronomers later used similar portal theories, but Enoch claims prior origin. The Qumran scribes copied these exact chapters onto scroll after scroll. Fragment 4, Q209, contains detailed Aramaic translations of these portals. The text leaves zero room for allegorical interpretation. It asserts that the laws of the sun are fixed, eternal, and non-negotiable. Why would a religious community care so deeply about orbital mechanics? Because to them, performing a ritual on the wrong day rendered the ritual void. If you drop a quick like on this video, it helps spread these hidden historical facts across the platform. Celebrating the Sabbath on a day non-aligned with Uriel's portals was seen as profane. The Book of Luminaries was their defense shield against liturgical collapse. It anchored their identity in cosmic law rather than human temple decree. When Rome eventually standardized the Julian calendar, Enoch's solar portals were silenced. Western theology chose imperial authority over angelic astronomy. Yet the caves at Qumran kept Uriel's instructions perfectly preserved in clay, waiting 2,000 years for modern eyes to re-examine the math. Just like those ancient scribes wasted centuries arguing over complex formulas instead of looking at simple truths. Most people today waste endless weeks getting stuck, trying to figure out which modern tools actually generate income. You end up spending all your energy researching tech stack options rather than securing any real cash coming in. That is exactly why this straightforward digital book breaks down 9 simple services you can start offering right now. It cuts through the overwhelming noise so you stop overthinking and start seeing immediate financial results this month. Just point your camera at the QR code right here on the screen to grab your digital copy and take a look inside. In a world governed by Enoch's 364-day grid, chaos simply vanished. Because 364 is perfectly divisible by 7, exactly 52 weeks, not a day more, not a day less. Think about what that means for sacred time. If the first day of the year lands on a Wednesday, it lands on a Wednesday next year, and the year after that, forever. Passover never strays. Yom Kippur never drifts into a workday. The Sabbath is anchored to the exact same position on the wheel for eternity. No priest ever had to guess when divine order began. You never had to recalculate holy dates every spring. It was locked, immutable, a flawless mathematical reflection of heaven. Except human rulers hate systems they cannot alter. When you control the calendar, you control when people worship, control the dates, and you control the economy of sacrifices. The Qumran community saw this mathematical perfection as a divine signature. To alter a single day was to desecrate the cosmic throne. Yet Jerusalem was about to embrace a system built on shifting shadows, a calendar that forced holy days to slide across the week like fluid. Enoch warned that abandoning the solar count would plunge worship into darkness, and the lunar trap was already springing shut. Enter the lunar cycle, 354 days, 11 days short of the solar year. 11 missing days doesn't sound like catastrophic corruption until you let 3 years pass. Now your harvest festival is a month out of sync with the crops. Spring feasts arrive while frost is still on the ground. So what did the priests in Jerusalem do to fix it? They invented the Intercalary leap month. Whenever the seasons drifted too far, they just inserted a 13th month, Adar Sheni, an artificial patch on a broken clock. Think about the sheer human arrogance of that decision. A committee of men deciding when God's holy days occur. If the moon was hidden by clouds on the first of the month, the entire nation's liturgical clock paused until someone spotted a sliver. The Book of Enoch calls this calendar drift a curse. In chapter 82, Uriel explicitly warns Enoch about this exact error. Men will alter the years and miss the holy dates by 19 days. They will celebrate feasts on days of work and work on days of rest. To Enoch, the moon was an unreliable celestial officer. It shifts its phase, alters its path, and lags behind the sun. The sun is constant. The solar grid never fails. By replacing Enoch's solar matrix with lunar observation, Jerusalem changed everything. Sacred time was no longer dictated by heaven's geometry. It was ruled by politics, observation, and priestly decree. This wasn't an academic debate over numbers. It was a blood feud over who held legitimate authority in Jerusalem. The Zadokite priests traced their lineage straight back to King Solomon's temple. For centuries, they guarded Enoch's 364-day solar calendar as sacred law. Then came the Maccabean Revolt and the Hasmonean dynasty. Hellenized rulers backed by Greek political influence seized control of the high priesthood. To align Judea with the Seleucid Empire, they enforced the lunar solar calendar. Suddenly, the temple in Jerusalem was operating on a completely different clock. Imagine the horror of the traditional Zadokite priesthood. They watched the usurpers offer sacrifices on days that Enoch called ordinary weekdays, and ignore the true Sabbaths dictated by the solar grid. To the Zadokites, the Jerusalem temple had become a house of cosmic treason. They refused to compromise. They packed up their scrolls and marched into the wilderness. They settled at Qumran, overlooking the dead waters of the Dead Sea. They called themselves the Sons of Light, living in self-imposed exile. While Jerusalem celebrated Yom Kippur on one day, the Qumran community observed it on an entirely different day out in the caves. Their Dead Sea Scrolls contained fierce polemics against the wicked priest of Jerusalem. The crime, defiling the holy seasons and walking after the moon. They maintained meticulous calendar tables, matching solar dates to priestly courses. Each of the 24 priestly families served in the temple on a fixed, rolling schedule. Under the 364-day system, those rotations repeated flawlessly year after year. Under Jerusalem's lunar system, the rotations broke down into utter chaos. This wasn't just a difference of opinion. It was two different religions using the same scriptures. One rooted in imperial compromise, the other locked to Enoch's solar truth. And the winning side spent 2,000 years trying to make sure you never heard of Enoch. They didn't just lock up manuscripts in local archives. They needed a universal calendar to unify an expanding empire. Enter the 4th century imperial church councils. When Constantine summoned bishops to Nicaea in 325, dates mattered. Passover and Easter synchronization was turning into full-scale liturgical chaos. Some cities calculated feasts by local solar sightings, others by lunar cycles. If different provinces celebrated Easter on different weeks, imperial unity fractured. So the council severed Christian observance from the Jewish lunar calendar entirely. They tied Easter to the vernal equinox and the full moon following it. Sounds reasonable, except it buried Enoch's fixed 364-day template completely. Enoch's system didn't rely on moon sightings or Roman solar adjustments. It was pure mathematical symmetry locked to 4 solar portals. If you hit that subscribe button right now, you help us unpack more suppressed history. To imperial authorities, Enochian solar math looked like sectarian rebelliousness. The Qumran community had already been labeled extremists by Jerusalem temple elites. Now, Rome was standardizing religious law across all Mediterranean territories. Books that didn't fit the new canonical list were quietly excluded from copying. If scribes stop copying a manuscript, it vanishes within 3 generations. Drop a quick like on this video if this calendar mystery is making sense. That's how the Book of Enoch disappeared from European monastery libraries. Not by a dramatic public burning, just by dropping it off the approved liturgical reading schedules. The Julian calendar took over civil life, and church feast days followed suit. Except Enoch's calendar had one specific key that Roman mathematicians completely missed: 4 hidden days that anchored the entire solar rotation, and ignoring them destroyed the symmetry. If you take 360 days and divide by 12, you get 30 days a month. Clean, simple, elegant math. But the solar year doesn't end there. Enoch's text introduces 4 special days called epigomenal or intercalary days, one added to the end of each 90-day quarter. These 4 days mark the equinoxes and solstices precisely. They weren't counted as part of the regular 30 days of any month. They stood outside the monthly cycle as seasonal transition gates. 90 days plus 1 intercalary day equals 91 days per season. Multiply 91 by 4 seasons, and you land right on 364. 91 is exactly divisible by 7. That's 13 full weeks per season. That mathematical trick is why the Sabbaths never drifted in Enoch's world. Ancient farmers relied on these exact 4 markers to schedule planting. If a priest misplaced the equinox day, agricultural cycles went out of sync. Planting seeds 2 weeks late in the Middle East meant total crop failure. So calendar keeping wasn't academic theory, it was survival. The Book of Luminaries insists angels revealed these 4 days to Enoch, because humans kept forgetting to count them, causing calendar confusion. When you ignore the intercalary days, the sun leaves your calendar behind. The Qumran community viewed those who skipped these days as spiritually blind. They wrote fierce polemics against the Jerusalem priests who adopted lunar months. They claimed lunar worship turned holy festivals into common workdays. And the origin of those 4 days leads back to a startling narrative in Enoch. Enoch doesn't claim he invented this astronomy through trial and error. He says the angel Uriel showed him the movements of celestial bodies. The Book of Heavenly Luminaries details 6 eastern portals where the sun rises, and 6 western portals where the sun sets throughout the year. As the sun shifts portals, day length changes in precise fractional ratios. This isn't primitive myth, it's structural observational astronomy. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our deep dive on ancient scrolls. In the Enochian worldview, star positions were maintained by angelic watchers. Each star had a designated leader responsible for its precise timing. If a star rose out of order, it was considered a rebellion against cosmic law. That made tracking the sky an act of spiritual warfare, not just meteorology. If your calendar was wrong, you were aligning your worship with fallen angels. That's why the Qumran priests refused to compromise on the 364-day year. To them, accepting a lunar calendar meant surrendering to fallen angelic influence. Comment calendar below if you can see why this astronomical conflict ran so deep. The Watcher's story connected calendar keeping directly to divine judgment. Humanity's main sin in word Enoch was messing with celestial order. When church leaders later set Enoch aside, they separated theology from astronomy. Star tracking became secular science, and calendar dates became political decisions. But far away in the highlands of East Africa, one ancient church kept the whole book, preserving Enoch's solar secrets while Western tradition erased them. Western scribes systematically omitted Enoch's solar cycle during translation. They deemed the 364-day matrix far too dangerous for canonical liturgy. Yet 6,000 miles away, high in the Horn of Africa, history took a turn. The Ge'ez Church in Ethiopia preserved the full text intact for millennia. To Ethiopian scholars, Enoch was never apocryphal. It was sacred scripture. While Rome standardized a modified solar-lunar calendar, Ge'ez priests held firm. They copied chapter 72 word for word, maintaining the 4 portals. Every spring, equinox was counted using Enoch's rigid celestial mathematical layout. European scholars ridiculed the Ethiopian canon as a collection of wild fables. They claimed no ancient Hebrew original ever contained such solar precision. I actually made a video here on my channel about how Ethiopian monks guarded these exact solar secrets. Western theologians assumed the Ge'ez solar calendar was a late medieval invention. They insisted the 30-day months were imported from neighboring cultures. Only, they were utterly wrong, and Qumran proved it. If you want more deep dives like this, subscribe to the channel right now. The Ethiopian text matched the Dead Sea fragments down to the exact phrases. It preserved the exact names of the 4 Intercalary leaders governing the seasons. Without Ge'ez's manuscripts, modern historians would have dismissed Enoch entirely. The West thought they had successfully buried the 364-day year forever, until a shepherd boy tossed a stone into a desert cave near the Dead Sea. What lay inside smashed 2,000 years of Western theological consensus. In 1947, Cave 4 at Qumran surrendered 11 distinct Enochian fragments. Designated 4Q201 through 4Q22, these scrolls contained original Aramaic text. Scholar Yosef Milik spent decades piecing the microscopic fragments together. What he discovered sent shockwaves through biblical archaeology laboratories worldwide. The Astronomical book was not a later Christian addition to Jewish tradition. It was dated precisely to the 3rd century before the Common Era. That makes it older than most canonical books found in the Old Testament. Scroll 4Q208 recorded explicit daily breakdowns of lunar and solar ratios. It tracked the sun moving through 6 eastern and 6 western sky gates. Every single calculation confirmed a strict, unyielding 364-day annual cycle. If you appreciate unearthing facts like this, hit the like button right now. The scrolls did not present this calendar as a theoretical math experiment. It was the active liturgical calendar governing duty rotations for priests. 24 priestly courses rotated through the sanctuary on exact solar dates. Because 364 is divisible by 7, the schedule never shifted by 1 day. Course 1 always served on the first Sabbath of the first month. This level of liturgical synchronization was impossible under a lunar system. Fragments 4Q320 through 4Q330 contained complete multi-year calendar tables. They synchronized solar years with lunar months to highlight the lunar deficiency. The scribes marked the exact 10-day gap where lunar years fall behind. The Qumran community viewed the lunar calendar as a corrupt human invention. To them, deviating from Enoch's 364 days violated divine creation order. The verdict of the Dead Sea Scrolls is absolute and completely indisputable. Enoch's calendar wasn't an obscure myth, it was practical temple liturgy. And that liturgy put Qumran at direct war with Jerusalem's religious establishment. Imagine celebrating the most sacred day of the year on the wrong date. To the Qumran community, that wasn't just a minor administrative error. It was spiritual high treason against the sovereign of the universe. Jerusalem's high priests had adopted a lunar calendar under Greek influence. That meant Passover shifted across different days of the week every year. Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, suffered from the exact same instability. When Jerusalem observed Yom Kippur on a Tuesday, Qumran refused to participate. According to Enoch, Yom Kippur had to land on a Friday every single year. Celebrating it on Tuesday meant fasting on a common workday while working on a holy day. The Damascus document states that Jerusalem defiled the holy Sabbaths of God. The wicked priest of Jerusalem even marched on Qumran on their Yom Kippur. He knew that for Qumran, it was a solemn holy day of absolute rest. He used their own fixed calendar against them to attack without resistance. If you've ever felt something was off with religious history, comment scrolls below. This wasn't a debate over dates. It was a battle for heaven's alignment. Qumran believed prayers offered on the wrong calendar were completely rejected. Angelic hosts in heaven kept the 364-day cycle without a single second of drift. Humanity using a lunar calendar meant Earth was completely out of sync with heaven. This calendar war split ancient Judaism long before the Roman siege. It forced the Essenes to withdraw into the barren Judean caves. They chose exile in the desert over accepting a corrupted lunar temple calendar. They buried their scrolls to preserve the true solar order for the end times. and those scrolls remained hidden until modern science could finally verify them. We take our modern Gregorian calendar for granted, assuming leap years are pure scientific perfection. Every 4 years, we inject a ghost day into February, just to keep our seasons from drifting into chaos. It feels normal because we grew up with it, but mathematically, it's an artificial patch on a broken wheel. Enoch's system didn't need leap years. His 364-day architecture was locked into precise geometric symmetry. 4 seasons, exactly 91 days each, every single quarter perfectly balancing the sun's journey. When Rome shifted the world toward lunar alignment and solar adjustments, holy days became moving targets. Centuries of church tradition grew around a calendar that required constant clerical intervention to maintain. Whoever controlled the calendar controlled when worship happened, turning time itself into institutional authority. The Qumran community saw this centuries before Nicaea. They knew altering days meant corrupting divine order. In another video right here on my channel, I showed how Enoch's solar calendar solved an impossible calculation first. And that calculation proved that modern leap years are just a solution to a problem we created ourselves. Think about it. We accept fluctuating dates for Easter and changing days of the week for every anniversary. Under Qumran's calendar, Passover fell on the exact same Wednesday every single year, without exception. No drift, no recalculations, no debates among bishops about when the sacred year actually began. We traded astronomical certainty for political consensus, and then forgot the original blueprint ever existed. If you've ever felt that our modern tracking of time feels arbitrary and rushed, type calendar in the comments. Because once you see how Enoch structured the sun, our modern calendar looks like a patchwork illusion. The Essenes at Qumran didn't just preserve a theory. They lived this calendar in total isolation. They watched Jerusalem celebrate feasts on wrong dates, viewing the temple hierarchy as completely apostate. They buried their scrolls in dark caves to protect this secret for a future generation that would listen. And when those jars were opened in 1947, the church's narrative about calendar history collapsed. Subscribe to the channel right now if you want to keep exposing these buried manuscript proofs. Because what Qumran Ultimate proves is far larger than a dispute over days. It redefines early Christianity. The critics claimed a practical structure was an impossible fantasy until the physical manuscript evidence proved them wrong. In the exact same way, you do not need to become a tech specialist or spend money. You don't have to build real daily income. Inside the pages of this digital guide, you will discover step-by-step frameworks that turn basic tasks into client payouts. You get precise instructions for every service, showing you exactly how to execute without any prior technical expertise. Imagine having complete control over your earnings, knowing you hold a reliable blueprint to generate extra revenue whenever needed. Point your camera at the QR code on the screen right now, or click the pinned comment below to start your copy today. For 2,000 years, scholars claimed the Book of Enoch was merely apocalyptic fiction written by dreamers. They called the 364-day calendar an unworkable fantasy that no real community ever put into practice. Then, Cave 4 gave up its fragments. Multiple copies of the Astronomical book, written in Aramaic, identical in mathematical structure. Not a theoretical exercise. A functional, daily liturgical manual used by real priests in the Judean desert. This single discovery shatters the foundation of standard church history regarding biblical canon. It proves that before Rome stepped in, Second Temple Judaism contained a massive solar tradition. A tradition that treated Enoch's heavenly portals as absolute divine law given directly by angels. When early church councils selected which books belonged in the Bible, they didn't just choose stories. They chose a calendar system. They selected time itself. By excluding Enoch, they discarded the 364-day solar cycle that Qumran fought to protect. They aligned church tradition with civil Roman timekeeping instead of Enoch's angelic astronomy. and in doing so, the link between biblical worship and cosmic solar alignment was systematically severed. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church was the only major tradition that refused to surrender Enoch. They preserved the full text, while Western monasteries let it disappear from their scriptoria. For centuries, European scholars mocked the Ethiopian canon, assuming Enoch was a late fabrication. Qumran proved the Ethiopian church was right all along. The Dead Sea Scrolls match the Gaze manuscripts word for word on key calendar passages. That isn't coincidence. That is textual survival against 2,000 years of active suppression. The implications for modern believers and historians alike are staggering. If the original solar calendar of Enoch was divine, then centuries of religious observances were altered. The dates were shifted, the astronomical markers were forgotten, and the 4 intercalary days that governed the solar year were erased from Christian memory. Only a small desert community in Qumran took a stand to preserve the original clock of heaven. They paid for it with total isolation, hiding their library before Roman legions destroyed their settlement. They knew the truth would survive in the dark, and now those jars have spoken. They tell us that Enoch's astronomy wasn't a fringe myth. It was the original template. A template that challenged human empires and religious hierarchies alike. A template that proves time was once measured not by man's decrees, but by the sun's exact gates. If you made it all the way to the end of this deep dive, comment truth below so I know you watched it all. And right here on my channel, there is a video about how 12 gates are hiding behind the sun's path. Take a look. Subscribe to the channel, check that next video, and keep questioning what history tried to bury.